Well, when I first started out the blog, it was actually it was more about my own personal experiences when I first started college. So it was quite a few years back, and I was mainly just talking about my experiences at school, and then hey, I went on a date with this one girl, and then it started to progress where um, it was this public diary of mine where I was talking about my successes and my failures, and I met this person, or I thought about this, and eventually it started to evolve into predominantly an interracial dating blog, and so more and more it started to deviate from a story about me as opposed to me coaching everybody else about it. Um, and it's kind of weird because I never intended it to be an interracial dating blog. It was just me complaining about shit. Um, and naturally, that's I've over the years that I've managed the blog, it's manifested into this monster blog where people are constantly asking me questions about Asian guy stuff. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. It's Ty was observing, and interject anytime, Ty, you feel
Mhm.
like, that it seemed like the blog is trying to answer women from other racial backgrounds besides being Asian, like what,
Mhm.
how to get an Asian guy or what Asian men expect. It's almost like it was directed towards women.
Mhm.
Am I reading that correctly, or is that off?
No, that's completely accurate. Which is funny because that was my complete opposite um,
Right.
objective. What I was trying to do, it was supposed to just be um, sort of a message to Asian guys at first. It was like, hey, this is what's going on in my life, and I'm getting dates, and you can too. And it was, it's, it started off to be, a big narrative about my own life, and I think that that style, I think that one of my early readers summarized it best. It was like I was the Asian male version of Sex in the City, and so I think that a lot of women like this idea of like, hey, he's being really honest about his dates and about him screwing up, and eventually the Asian
I
guys just never
feel like
showed up.
male Carrie Bradshaw, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. I'll take it.
Yeah, sure, sure. So, what has the reception been on, I guess, both sides? Meaning, so obviously, non-Asian females are really digging your site, wanting to
Mhm.
find out a lot. And I'm curious to know what are some of the things that they don't understand and that you find is useful to tell them. And then also, too, how have Asian males responded to your blog? Or have they? I mean, have they been able to find it? Are they
I
interested
think
in it?
that the weird thing is that the split in the demographics between my blog is so heavily swayed to women. You're probably looking at a 90 to 10% split between women and men.
Hmm.
And so I think that for a lot of the men, or for the few men that take a look at the blog, um, a lot of them are really excited and they're championing behind the blog and they're like, yeah, like I like what he's saying and this is great. Some of them who are, I guess, maybe a little bit more traditional, they're like, no, we're nothing like this. We don't like to date interracially. We prefer dating Asian women. And so for the Asian guys, it's kind of weird. I mean, either they love it or they hate it. But for the women who take a look at the blog, um, there's a resounding positive reaction. I think that a lot of them do really enjoy the blog. Um, but I think that what happened was that there's such a confusion about what Asian guys are about, and there's almost sort of this mystique because Asian guys, for the most part, you don't see them on TV, you don't hear about them in music or politics, and so when I write about it, a lot of them will comment and say, "Oh my God, like my mind is blown. I never knew that Asian guys, they have a love life, like they date, and they're interested in non-Asian women. Like this is crazy." And so I think that for a lot of them, that's that's their main reaction. Just I'm the sentiment of I'm glad to know that they are thinking about us, or that there are Asian guys out there who are interested in black women or white women.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, what is there like a certain demographic of women that are into Asian men? Like, is it I'm trying to figure out
Mm.
what is the parallel between that and, the typical white man yellow fever,
Mm.
that they have towards Asian women. Like, is it some kind of fetish that they have where they're um, kind of, maybe projecting an image onto Asian men that is what we would think is kind of maybe a cliche, or like, like
Yeah.
God knows, I don't know, maybe like kung fu, or like
Well,
they watch a lot of Korean pop. I don't know, like are we all like that? No, but I'm
uh,
curious to hear like what are your impressions of, I guess, yeah, like how is that different or similar to the
mhm.
typical yellow fever stuff that we hear all about?
Yeah. Well, I think that in terms of demographics, my blog is really different in the sense that a large portion of my female viewers are predominantly black, whereas when you go to other blogs that deal with Asian male interracial relationship, it's actually mainly Asian guys and white girls. And I think that that's why a lot of people are also reading this blog because, I mean, how many blogs out there exist
Mhm.
with the focus on Asian men and black women? And so for me, I think that the reason why um, that's the primary demographic is because I wrote a blog post one time, a long time ago, like years ago, and it was about black women's hair, and I was like, I actually like black women's natural hair. I love it. I think it looks gorgeous, and I think that it's unique. Um, and I think that black women should own up to it, and they shouldn't be ashamed of it, and they should, be concerned about straightening it or relaxing it. And I mean, it was almost like overnight that there's this huge wave of people coming in that are like, "Oh my God, like I love you," and I mean, I'll say completely honestly that my blog would not be what it is now if it wasn't for the black female community. Not at all. I think that they completely elevated and promoted within themselves without me even asking for them. They were the ones who shared it and commented it and started telling everybody. Um, Now, as far as sort of their expectations of what Asians are like, I think that a lot of it also was timed perfectly. So when I started writing about black women, the K-pop movement was really flooding into the United States, and I think that um, you had a lot of people who were researching about, oh, do Korean guys like black women? Do Korean guys like Latin women? And then my blog started popping up a lot, and so it was sort of the first stop for a lot of people to go ahead and say, oh, hey, I guess Korean guys do, or maybe I do have a chance with, Rain or Taeyang. Um, Now, on that note, I think it's sort of a mixed set of emotions because on one hand, there's a lot of women who think that Asian guys are all going to be like K-pop guys, because they've never seen us on TV before, they've never seen us in music videos, so for the most part, the Asian male figure has been absent, and I mean, save for Ken Jeong and Jackie Chan, we really didn't exist. So when K-pop came in, it was almost like we came out of the closet, so to speak. Um, and I think a lot of them thought, oh, okay, so this is, I guess, what Asian guys are like. And so for a lot of my viewers, I think the biggest problem is trying to tell them that, okay, we're not kung fu guys, but we're also not K-pop stars. I mean, some of us are just normal, right down the middle. We're sort of the, my favorite example really is Glenn from The Walking Dead. Because he's just a normal dude, and I think that if more of my readers can understand that that's what more Asian guys are like, as opposed to being sort of the polar opposites.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this is a great segue, because I'm fascinated by. I think it's called the AMBW. Am I saying that correctly, or is there some other acronym for it? Or
Nope, that's right.
okay, so I'm fascinated by this whole like AMBW. Like this, there just seems to be. I discovered this probably about like a year or two ago.
Hmm.
For example, I think well, I kind of knew it was kind of in the background, but I thought it was kind of a, kind of like this really, really small niche. Like I would see it in like the meetup.com. They had like a Asian male, black female meetup group, and I was like, wow, that's different. Like I've never seen that before. And then
Hmm.
I heard of this guy. I don't know if you know who he is, Kenny Styles. He's a
Oh
porn
yeah,
star.
of
Yeah.
course.
Okay. I heard, and then I was following his Instagram, and then like I realized like 80% of his fans were like black women, and that totally took me
Yeah.
by surprise because I was not expecting that. I thought it would be 80% of it would be guys like me, Asian males who are like, you
Yeah.
go, buddy, like, keep going. So
Hmm.
I was confused. I was kind of like, what's going on here? There's some um, there seems to be some fit that's happening with black women and Asian men. So I'm
Hmm.
like, what do you think is happening? What is it? Why is there this pent up desire or this special? But right now it seems like to be a special time in this relationship.
Well, I think that what happened was that the interest in black women and the interest in Asian men was always there. It was just a matter of popping that bubble. So I think that from the Asian guy's perspective, um, me growing up, I remember watching. I mean, if this is a horrible example, but I remember watching music videos and I remember watching movies where there would be black women, and I'd be like, "Oh man, she's hot," or she looks really pretty, or I had crushes on black girls in high school, but I would never pursue it because I just didn't think that they were interested in me. I literally thought that it was impossible for black women to like Asian men. That it was almost like we're two completely different species. Not to say that I thought of them as anything less, but I just thought that we would never be their type. Which is kind of funny because my brother was actually dating black women like all the time when I was growing up, so I should have known. But on the opposite side, for black women, I think that for them, they were sort of in an interesting situation because I think that a lot of black women in America grow up being told that they can't date anybody else but black men, that they can only date black men, and that anybody else wouldn't be worthy. And especially when you compare Asian men, there's this perception that black men are the height of masculinity, and Asian men are at the bottom of that. And so there's this idea that the Asian guy just won't be able to take care of her. But I think that the AMBW movement started to happen as a lot of these people grew up and they started to realize that, hey, I'm going to college and I'm realizing that Asian guys aren't as shy as people told me, or Asian guys, they seem to show an interest in me in my college class, or from the Asian guy's perspective, there's this black girl who has been flirting with me, or she's been texting me, and so that coupled with the K-pop movement sort of created this sentiment of like, yeah, maybe we should go for it. I think that sort of door opened up and they realized that everybody who's been telling me all this crap about who I can or can't date, it's completely crap because my brother's dating a black woman, or my friend over here is dating an Asian guy, and so I think that it's just started to trickle down. I think that all those elements came to play right at the perfect time.
Okay, yeah. When I initially encountered the AMBW movement, I think the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't like to say it, but I think a lot of people think this is that which you kind of alluded to, which is that Asian men and black women are kind of at the bottoms of the social pyramid hierarchy,
Mhm.
right? And so was it like a natural pairing? Um, just to share my own story, I went on the speed dating thing a long time, like five years ago in San
Mhm.
Francisco when I lived there, and the only yeses that I got, so they were like, like what were there, 20 women, and like most of them were white. There were a couple of Asians, some blacks, and Hispanics and Middle Easterners. Only the black women and I think Hispanic women said yes to me. Like basically all the brown people and and darker, all the light skinned and my own people, they said no, and I was like, this is not random. This is some sort of, you know,
It's a sign.
I was pissed because it was like, it's so racist. Not a single white girl said yes. I was like, this is bullshit. So I guess what I'm saying is that in my own experience, that like I had a very visceral and tangible encounter with this sort of social pyramid. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, maybe this is what that's about. Like, what do you think about that?
The funny thing is, I know that a lot of people throw away or throw out the idea about the social or sexual hierarchy, and that there's this idea that the reason why the AMBW movement started is because Asian guys were at the bottom of the barrel and black women were at the bottom of the barrel. So it was almost out of necessity. We're like the last people on Earth. And we're just like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna want to date. Sure. Like it was almost as if people think that we're dating out of pity because we have no other options. But I think it's complete crap. I think that what did happen though is that yes, I do think that Asian men and black women are at the bottom end in terms of the relationship world and what people expect of us, socially, sexually, and so you have a lot of Asian men who feel that everyone thinks that they're not man enough, and so there's a lot of Asian guys trying to carve out their masculinity by by trying to improve their confidence by doing well in school, getting into sports, breakdancing, being a really good acoustic guitar player, and then on the other hand, you have black women who are facing that expectation of, oh, everyone thinks that I'm ghetto or I'm easy or that I'm this and I'm that, and so on that hand, a lot of black women are trying to disprove that by showing that they're educated and that showing that they're cultured and that they're diverse and they're not this angry black woman sort of stereotype, which is completely true because when you look at the statistics, black women are as a group the single most educated group of people in the entire United States, which I think that a lot of people would completely don't realize that, and so I think that you have two groups that have a lot to prove to themselves, and they have a lot of ambition, and I think that is the key component which makes them really compatible with each other. They're constantly trying to say, forget what everybody else says. I don't care if I'm not I don't look like Justin Bieber or Paul Walker, or I don't care if I don't have shimmering hair like Britney Spears. And so I think that there's just this really admirable sense of trying to make something out of yourself, and I think that that's one of the reasons why the two sort of came together.
Sure, that's awesome. I had no idea. That sounds awesome. It's like a grand fuck you to everybody else.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
One component that I'm interested in is kind of the mirror reflection, meaning what do black men think of this topic and what do Asian women think about? Because we hear a lot about white men and Asian women, but I'm not hearing anything about this topic. And one of the things that I'm personally trying to figure out or try to bring to the forefront, I think Asian males are very reluctant to speak publicly, and especially kind of emotionally, angrily, or passionately about a lot of topics, And lately, there's been a lot of Twitter stuff about Asian females and feminism and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think your blog was in, like anytime we've kind of encountered where an Asian male was kind of unabashedly proud of what they were doing, be it all the way back to Bruce Lee to Arthur Chu on our site. I interviewed, and he was, there's all this great support of him, and Jeremy Lin, and then but now I think I think what's happening is it's not just you have to make it to become a movie star or professional sports player, but even what you're doing and what you're writing about, I think that's kind of like what we need to be talking about. It's like, well, why can't I date a black woman if I want? And let's talk about it. So I'm interested to hear. Have you had any um, yeah, interactions with black males and Asian females, and what was their reception to both your blog and just your relationship with your girlfriend?
The the thing about the reactions with both of them is that they're really split. So for for black men, I think that you have half of them who are, from my personal experience, who are really vocal about it. I remember when I first got with my girlfriend, um, she had a lot of black male friends who would message her and say stuff like, "Oh, why are you with him? Why aren't you with a black man?" Or we would go to San Francisco, and I remember one time we're walking down Union Square, and I mean literally like five different guys said something like to our face as we're walking around. And I remember one time, like probably the most clear memory that I have was we were walking down, and then this one black guy came up to us, and he was like, he said to my girlfriend, "Does he pay you a nickel for every time for every time you say you love him?"
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, for me, it was kind of like it was so out there that I wasn't even mad. I was like, "Wow, really?" But that's one half. And the other half, they're really, really supportive. Actually, one of my biggest fans is a black male who lives in Europe. He dates Asian women, and he looks up to me. He's sending me postcards, and he's always commenting on my posts, and he's a really great guy. And I think that on the other half, you have a lot of black guys who are like, "Oh, hey, Asian guy who's with a black woman, that's cool." Now for Asian women, it's a little bit more tricky because I think Asian people in general, um, a lot of the snickering and the chit chat happens completely behind closed doors. Asian people, you know, unknown to a lot of non-Asian people, are some of the biggest shit talkers ever.
Oh yeah.
And I know that I haven't really experienced Asian women say anything to me personally, like to my face or to my girlfriend, or at least not that I know of. But I know that if we walk into a restaurant, if we walk into like, a Chinese restaurant or a Vietnamese restaurant, the the hardest stares that I get are from other Asian women. And oftentimes it's funny because so there's this place in San Jose where it's known for being like jam-packed with every single Asian woman white guy relationship that you could ever imagine. Like it's almost like all of them like hang out in one area. And so it's funny when me and my girlfriend walk around that place because you get these head turns like all the time, and I get these really like nasty looks, almost as if they're trying to say like, oh, who do you think you are? Like this is our place. Like I don't know. I mean, but again, it could be my own perception of what I think that they're thinking, but
Well, is it like a dirty look? You think it's like?
yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, it's like you can only infer so much about a dirty look, but I mean, sometimes you just know.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. That's like one of the like how some Asian girls are like if you ask them, why is it that you only date white guys, and they're just like, it's just a matter of preference. What's the big deal? Why are you so uptight about it? I'm curious. Like one day, like I don't know, have you tried or would you try saying something like telling an Asian woman, I'm just not into Asian girls like you. I'm just into black women. Like I don't think that would be as received quite as it seemed like you're sexist or like fetishizing, when a man does it,
Yeah.
but when a woman does it, it's okay, like that's kind of what I'm guessing would happen.
Yeah, I think that's what would happen because it'd be, if you ask them, then it's like, oh well, it's 2014, I should be able to choose whatever I want, which is totally fine. I mean, I have no problem if they want to date whoever they want, it's completely fine with me. But I think that it'd be interesting once you start to see more Asian guys dating black women, because I know that right now in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of interracial relationships between Asian guys, but it's primarily with white women. And so for the most part, no one, says anything. So hopefully when Asian guys start realizing that they can date black women or Latin women, I really hope that they are vocal about it and that they stick up for themselves and they say, this is what I like,
Hmm.
I don't care.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you're carrying the flag for us right now.
I hope
um,
so.
um, yeah. Well, like I'm always like I'm fine with Asian women dating outside the race, but what pisses me off is that they only date white guys usually. Like
Hmm.
90% of them, like they don't date the Hispanic guys. If they were dating Hispanic and black guys, then I'm like, all right, well, yeah, you're free to love whoever you want. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not like that, you know. Like that's kind of like my beef. It's not
Yeah.
kind of it's not a fair spread. It's just sort of a selective thing, you know. And that's kind of what I want to call out. But if we
Yeah.
call that out, then it seems like I'm being racist or sexist or whatever,
No,
misogynist.
exactly. Like I remember when I was in high school and you had the that whole like scene movement where you had Fallout Boy and like the grungy white guy sort of look, and I remember that was like huge at my school. Um, and I remember it was like a domino effect where every single Asian girl that I went to school with, they were all like dating white guys. Like they all like it's like they converted. Like it was like this big like they had like a meeting and they decided that they were gonna give up on Asian guys. Um, and I remember I would ask them, I was like, oh, how come you're dating that guy, or why do you like dating white guys? Um, and I think that one of the problems that I had about it was that a lot of the reasonings and their explanations were all like, oh well, because I don't want to date someone that looks like my brother, or because Asian guys they're too shy, or because I like white guys their hair, or the color of their eyes. Like it just really shallow answers. And I think that that's my only problem with anybody who chooses to date interracially. I always ask them, when they're looking for advice from me, I ask them, why do you want to date Asian guys, or why do you want to date white guys or black guys? Because oftentimes the reasoning is so flat and one-dimensional that they catch themselves and they're like, oh, well, I guess I don't know why. I just maybe I like the celebrity and I want to find like a replica in a white guy or whatever.
Yeah, I
Hey,
think. Yeah, go ahead, Ty.
oh, let me chime in since I haven't said a word yet. Um, but yeah, thanks for being with us, Rainier. But it sounds like that basically there's this undercurrent of media. You were
Hmm.
talking about earlier how, maybe you watched a music video or and then later, just now, like Asian women, watching these music videos and seeing more
Hmm.
white men, and then but maybe not being able to kind of elucidate like, oh yeah, that's probably why I am all of a sudden attracted to people out of my race. So,
Yeah,
I mean, have you observed that?
completely. I think that a lot of what society deems attractive or in is completely based off of media. I mean, so I remember a lot of the women in high school who were switching over. They're like they're converting to white guys. And it was funny because those same exact girls I totally remember just a couple years ago, once the whole K-pop movement was like exploding, all of a sudden they are taking profile pictures to make themselves look Korean, or they're posting about how much they love K-pop guys. And I was like, wait, hold on a second, like you were religiously dating white guys like for years, and then now you're like you totally changed. And I think that that's it really is a testament to the power of how much media will affect something as fundamental as who you're willing to date. Something as simple as K-pop coming into America. I mean, I think that for me, what's exciting is that if this is what happens with K-pop, which is not homebrewed in the United States, I can only imagine if something like that blew up in the United States. I mean, geez, I think people would freak out. I mean, like, so
Sure.
I, I think it's just really interesting to see, how how media does make that effect in, who people decide to date.
I mean, for Asian guys, like who do you see would be, kind of leading the vanguard in like our media exposure?
Not Ken Jeong, but I think it's kind of sad because I think that even for my blog, when I post a lot of pictures, it's a very image-heavy blog, for good reasons. I mean, you have to inject like every 5 seconds a topless Asian guy because hey, but I think that the sad thing is that for a lot of Asian American guys, we're watching from a telescope how much attention these K-pop guys are getting, and we're really supportive of it, and we're really like go them, but I don't know. I think that over here we're still completely lacking in that department. I think that we really do need to have a lot more Asian guys, who get into music or who get into film. But I think that's tough because one, I mean, we're doing damn good in the tech business, so on that hand, I think that we're okay. But I think that for me, I really like Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead. I think that he's a really good example. And the reason why is because I think that he's a very perfect example of a middle of the road Asian guy. Not to say that he's average, because I mean the guy is like really good looking, but I think that what it does is he's not the goofy Asian, so he's not Ken Jeong, he's not the kung fu Asian, so he's not Bruce Lee, but he's also not the K-pop guy. And I think that all three of those are this exaggerated expression of what Asian guys are, whereas Glenn on The Walking Dead, I mean, he's a normal dude. I mean, white guys, black guys, anybody can relate to him, and I think that that is what we need the most. And I think that we just need to start telling the different sides of Asian guys. That's why I love the fact that America's Best Dance Crew came on, because it showed everyone like, man, Asian guys can dance. And I think that if we can all start rallying against more Asian guys who are in movies and paying tickets and supporting them, I think that as a community, we can help create a better identity. But I think that right now, I'm going for Steven Yeun.
Cool. Thanks, Ranier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to take back over, Ty?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good point, I think. But it's funny because your blog has all those guys with the ripped abs, and so you're like, because I'm like, not many of my friends look like that. It's kind of like, I mean, it's cool that, like you said, it's cool that there are guys like that, but it's like, most of them look like me and Ty and you, like just regular dudes, right? Like,
hey man, if you put on a little eyeliner, I think you could pull it out.
Wow.
The funny thing though is that, okay, so when it comes to the amount of like the K-pop abs on my blog, the reason why I have that is because literally when you try to look up like, oh, handsome Asian guy, everything is all K-pop guys. And for me, I try to put as many images as possible. Things are relatively high quality, and I mean you can only put so many pictures of Steven Yeun. And you can only put so many pictures of Harry Shum Jr. And so I think that from a picture standpoint, there's just a surplus of K-pop guys, so it's convenient in that sense. But to be honest, when I look at some of these K-pop stars, I look at them and I'm like, you know what? I have guy friends who look just like that, or I have guy friends who are just as handsome as that. And I think that it really is just a matter of having the right hairstylist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Why don't we move? One thing I wanted to ask you was, was this move to date outside your race something that was conscious for you? Like, was it a selection? Like, I'm going to date a outside my race, and then, oh, I kind of like black women, so I'm going to stick with that. Or was it, totally, you dated Asian women, I'm sure, and then gradually you just found your present girlfriend now, and you like. So is it like you're narrowing your scope over time, or is it still something that you're redefining?
It it progressed in a really weird way. It sort of jumped all over the place. So I remember when I was, like 5 years old, um, all the people who I thought were attractive on TV were all like blonde women or black women, and it wasn't until Fast and the Furious came out that I really started to like, oh, only Asian women, only Asian women. Um, and then when the whole shift to, oh, we're only dating white guys kind of thing happened, I remember I was like 16, 17 years old, and I personally, out of retaliation, I was like, fuck that. I'm not dating Asian girls anymore. I'm going to start dating everybody else. Be like, screw you guys. You want to do that to me? I'm going to date outside of my race. Which failed horribly. And naturally, I just ended up dating Asian women. And this, I think, it's not that I was actively pursuing women of other color, but I just try to keep myself open-minded and to realize that, hey, if she's a nice girl, then I'll talk to the nice girl. And eventually, by opening myself up and trying to gain the confidence and having the balls to talk to a black woman or to a white woman, it sort of integrated into my own sort of dictionary, and I didn't think about it, and I just, I dated them for who they were, and I eventually just stopped caring about whether or not they were black, white, or Asian.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how does your family and your friends, what is their response to your girlfriend? Because one of the things I have on our site is, I remember when I was like 7 or 8, my mom elucidated like, I want you to marry a Chinese girl, but if not a Chinese girl, then date a Japanese girl. But if not, then Korean. Like, she went down this whole list, and at the very bottom, like, yeah, don't date a black girl. If you will, I'm disowning you. It's over. And
Yeah.
I was that, and I'm sure in most Asian guys or girls' experience, there has been that kind of talk, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe not in so many direct words, but they kind of get the point, and I think that's why being with a black person for an Asian person is still relatively rare.
Yeah.
So how did your family?
The funny thing is, my family is actually really open. My mom married interracially. My older brother has always been in interracial relationships. My oldest brother his partner is white. My sister, who's married to a Filipino man, she confessed before that she had crushes on black guys. So I think that naturally my whole family was always for it. So I never had a problem with it with my family, which I'm really, really thankful for, because I know that the biggest problem with a lot of interracial relationships with Asian guys is the family, or interracial relationships with Asian people, period. I think the biggest problem is the Asian family. That being said, my friends, they were also really open about it too, because most of my friends were Filipino guys, and they were always talking about, how they had a crush on this black girl, or how they thought that this Latin chick was hot. And so when it became known that I got with my girlfriend, there wasn't even like there wasn't an out of place reaction. It was just, oh, okay, that's cool, man. Good for you. And they just saw it as me having a girlfriend.
I wonder, how much of that open attitude is related to your Filipino background, because I mean, Filipinos by nature are sort of a mix of, Spanish, more Chinese elements, and then native people from the islands, Polynesians. So how much of that is sort of like, well, it's because I don't know if that attitude would necessarily filter down to, Chinese people or Koreans, or, so I'm wondering in my mind, that's kind of like the first thing that I think, that I'm like, yeah, it makes sense in a way because the Philippines has like a really diverse. It absorbs a lot of culture, so it's able to be a little bit more fluid. What do you think about that?
I think that the main reason why a lot of Filipinos, specifically Filipino-Americans, or in terms of Asian Americans, specifically Filipino-Americans, I think one of the reasons why they are oftentimes the most open in racial dating is because we have the most dysfunctional tie to our own culture. I remember growing up, I had Vietnamese friends who went to Vietnamese school and they learned how to read and write. I remember Chinese friends who went to Chinese school and they learned how to read and write. And so you're looking at all these other Asian people who they cooked the food, they spoke the language, they visited their home country, whereas Filipino people don't do any of that. Most of the Filipino people who were born here cannot speak a lick of their dialect, not one bit. I mean, we can understand a little bit, but absolutely no tie. And I think that Filipino people are so heavily Americanized that dating a black woman or dating a white woman or a Latin woman is just as normal to them as dating a Filipino woman. And so I think that for them, that's why you see a lot of Filipino guys who, got into the hip hop culture because, what culture did we have? We don't have a Filipino town like they do have a Japantown or a Chinatown, and so I think that our culture in and of itself was just non-existent, and so we just started adopting a lot of these different elements from everywhere else. I mean, even for me, I take on certain influences from Japanese culture or for Korean culture because I don't even have an idea of what it even means to be a Filipino. I mean, I can go to the Philippines and they wouldn't even recognize, what I am. And so I think that that plays a big part. The fact that we just don't have a culture and that we're sort of just this really blank slate.
I'm really glad you said that because that's one of the things me and Ty talked about. Background sometime is that we noticed that for Chinese people learning our language is relatively high on the priority of what the parents like you said, they'll send us to Chinese school and whatnot to preserve that cultural base. But yeah, we noticed that a lot of Filipinos do not speak Tagalog or whatever the other dialect that they have, and it's good that you're verbalizing that because as a Filipino you can speak, but we can't necessarily speak for you guys. So we appreciate that. So why don't we kind of wrap up? After maybe like one or two more questions, then Ty is going to ask you just like 5 quick questions, and then these quick questions will be. We're planning maybe to use this as the part where we kind of edit, and then we use that on the put that on the site or put that on YouTube. Because right now with the way we're talking, it's really long, right? It's like we're over 45 minutes right now. Most people are not going to watch it. I mean, maybe we could put it up if people really want to watch it, but most people don't watch more than 3 minutes at a time. So we wanted to get something tight and something quick from you. But just to end my series of questions is, do you think your blog and interracial relationships in general, is that the way our society is going to improve? Like this. What is the, I guess, do you see some social benefit to what you're doing in your blog and in your personal life? Or do you just strictly see this as this is about me, this is about my love life?
Originally, when I started off the blog, I would have thought that this is my own thing. This is one blog out of a billion on the internet and it has no impact or no meaning at all. But as the spread of my audience started to expand, I mean, I have people who will message me from Africa or from Egypt or from Australia, and they'll tell me like, oh my gosh, thanks for writing this blog. I've always liked Asian guys. And I mean, I hope that it makes an impact because for me personally, I do completely believe that interracial dating is a way for a lot of us to get rid of these racist tendencies because if, say, for example, you you know, you hate Mexican people, and then your sister-in-law happens to be Mexican. Like, even though you still have that prejudice there, you're gonna have to break down some of that. I mean, unless you're really stubborn, you're gonna have to learn how to adapt, and you're gonna have to sort of learn to accept that, she's Mexican, and everything that I learned about them was completely inaccurate. And that actually happened to my girlfriend. We had a family member who was pretty racist towards black people when we first got together, and so she was really skeptical about my girlfriend. But over time, that family member actually started dating black men, and she would start having these conversations with my girlfriend every now and then, and she'd be like, "Oh, tell me about black culture," and then she would be so enlightened, and she would start to say, "Oh my gosh, really? Like, black people have it bad? Like, oh, like they're really educated," and her mind was like completely blown. And I really do think that if it wasn't for her having that relationship with that gentleman who was black, she would have stayed completely racist. And so I do think that has a huge impact, and I hope that a lot of us move towards that. I mean, I don't want to say that we should exclusively date interracially, but I think that it's very beneficial.
That's awesome. Yeah. I was laughing to myself because I was thinking about what you're saying, and I was imagining my little sister. And I would actually prefer my little sister be with a black man than be with a white man. That's my only issue, though. But I was like, Evelyn, it's okay if you date a black guy. It's totally cool. Don't date, just don't date.
Yep.
Kill me, not them.
I agree.
Yeah. It's fucked up, but like maybe it's my thing I gotta work on. So. But.
I know what you mean.
All right, so Ty, did you want to ask your questions, or did you have anything else before we start on the?
No, I think that's all. Can you just give me like a few seconds?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just be right back.
Yeah, sure.
He's taking a pee break.
Getting ready, getting pumped up.
Getting pumped up.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. I remember when I was looking at your guys' site and I saw the Arthur Chu article. At first, I was like, "Oh, I thought you guys were just writing about him," and I didn't know that you actually interviewed him. And I shared that post because that was a amazing piece, by the way. I mean, it was you guys had fantastic interview questions, and a lot of the people who I shared it with thought it was awesome. So good job on you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, he was a great interview. It was I think a lot of people really liked it. I would have liked to get some video of him. I think and I think that's what we learned. Even though it was a great interview, I don't think it reached a lot of people because it's such a long read. Yeah. But he's so intelligent and so so being able to articulate those things too. So I'm hoping in your frame, AMBW, you're the Arthur Chu, dude. You're gonna
yeah
you're gonna blow some people's fucking minds, and I think that's what we need.
That's what I'm here for. Although I wish he would have talked. I remember maybe this is my own because I was reading it from the lens of interracial dating, and I knew that he was in an interracial marriage. And I was waiting for that question to come up, and I remember you guys asked, like, "Oh, how do you feel like about blah blah blah?" And then you kind of sneaked in, like, "Oh, your wife's white and blah blah blah," and he didn't answer it. But I was like, "Oh man, come on! I wanted to hear like his like super articulate answer to like what he thinks about interracial dating."
Yeah, well, I think like that would have been like an easy one, but I also thought it was kind of like it didn't really have to do with his fame.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it was too. It felt a little. Like it would cheapen the interview if I went that. Like I just like, "Oh, so you married a white girl, huh?" Like.
Yeah.
So I was
No,
like,
I
I'm not
completely
gonna.
agree.
I just wanted to mention it and then see if he hooked onto anything, but he didn't. So.
Exactly, exactly. No, I completely agree because it would have been like, it would have been too much of a tangent to be like, oh, okay, well, what are you guys really interviewing me for, kind of thing.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's not saying he represents all Asian males, and like he did it
Yeah.
to, so I just wanted to stick to what his thing was, and
Yeah.
if you felt comfortable with it, that's fine. And the same thing with you, if there's something you want to talk about that's not
Mhm.
related to this or slightly tangential, that's totally cool too.
Mhm.
Okay, Ty?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Ranier. So let me get into I call them like my quickie questions. So I guess we're trying to keep the answers somewhat brief for these, and I have 5 of them.
All right.
So are you ready?
Alrighty.
Okay, question 1. Name an Asian male celebrity who makes Asian guys look good. And I think we talked about this before.
Mhm.
And you said Steven Yeun. Um, are there any other guys?
Steven Yeun and oh god, Asian people are gonna hate me for this, but the guys from K-Town.
Uh, okay, all right, cool. My second question, besides
Mhm.
you and your girlfriend, are there some other well-known Asian male, black female couples that we should know about?
Um, not not in particular. No one who's really popular. There's a male model. His name is Paulo Roldan, and he's with a black woman. But again, he's not that well known. But in general, there really isn't anybody, not that I know of.
Okay, yeah, we need to promote them.
We should.
Yeah. Um, So, third question, what do you think? Okay, so there's this story of this guy. His name is Shion Nishi, and
Hmm.
he's Brazilian, and he got plastic surgery to look Korean. Have you heard of him?
Definitely, definitely. Um, with the thing about him is that I think that the plastic surgery was pretty good because he looks a lot like some of the Korean pop star guys. In that respect, I mean, some of the shots he looks super Korean. Some of them, it's like he's totally a Brazilian guy, totally. Um, but the funny thing is, I actually don't mind it that much. One of the reasons why is because for once you see someone doing plastic surgery for the appeal of Asian-centric physical characteristics, and so it's like, the guy thinks that Asian guys are the best looking things on the planet. So hey, I'll take it. Um, because I mean, honestly, Asian people have been getting plastic surgery to look white for years. So why are we gonna hate on this guy for doing the opposite? I really don't care.
Okay, cool, yeah. Yeah, when I heard that story first time, I was like blown away. Like it was like the very first I've ever heard.
Yeah. But I think that what it does is it really shows that the fact that people are surprised and that they're sort of like disgusted, it almost says like, what? So is it bad to get plastic surgery to look Asian? Is he downgrading himself for doing that? So that's why for me I'm like, no, I really don't care. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember there are like a horde of people on the YouTube comments who are like, "Oh, you used to look good, and now you look
Yeah,
are." Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. I guess it really says things about what we feel as a society is a attractive man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I know that right now what's really blowing up is the South Korean goalie. People are blowing up Twitter and saying, "Oh man, this guy's, he's pretty hot for a Korean." Like, "Oh my God, I never thought I would like a Korean guy." Like, it's just a lot of these really backhanded compliments. So, I don't know. I'm not for that.
Yeah, no, and whenever people say that, it's like fora, like you're hot fora.
Yeah, exactly.
Comment. It's like, okay, am I supposed to be like happy
Yeah,
with
it's like,
that?
and the sad part is that part of part of me as an Asian guy, it's like we never get compliments, so it's like I'll take it, but it could be better.
Yeah. Okay. Fourth question. What's the best thing about black women and then white women, Latinas, Asian women?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm with my girlfriend, so I can't, I guess, exactly say what I think is best about him because I have someone who's perfect for me. But I think that from the perspective of Asian guys who are looking to date interracially, I think that the best thing about black women is that they're incredibly intelligent and they're really witty and they're really smart. And I think that if a lot of Asian guys, get their head out of their ass and they realize that, hey, these are going to be my future bosses too. And if they can understand that, then they'll realize that they'll have a lot of appreciation, and they'll break a lot of that negative stereotype that they previously had. For white women, I think that a lot of Asian guys will like the fact that, and I mean, based off of my readers who are white women, they're really passionate about Asian culture. When they are passionate, they really go for it. I mean, they will go and teach English in Korea. I mean, that hardcore. And I've actually gotten into the most arguments online with women just like that, who are telling me how, like, oh, you know nothing about Asian culture, which it can be good. I appreciate the passion, but anyways, for Latin women, I mean, I grew up in Eastside San Jose, so you're looking at 40% Asian and then 40% Hispanic. So I always grew up with Latin women, and I like the fact that for Asian guys who are looking, Latin women are really open. They'll be easy to talk to in the sense that, whereas Asian culture, you have to really hide your feelings and not say too much. I feel like Latin women and also American or also Western culture in general, it's more prone to wearing your emotions on your sleeve. And I think that for Asian guys, that really helps out because a lot of Asian guys hold all that in.
Yeah. And just so we don't leave out the Asian women, what are the best things about Asians?
Oh, for Asian women, I think right now at this point, what I really admire socially about a lot of Asian women is that they're making a lot of strides. I mean, they're getting themselves into Congress and they're getting themselves to be the CEOs of startup companies in Silicon Valley. They're managing a branch at Goldman Sachs, and I think that not only is that making improvements for Asian people in general and Asian women, but they're making a lot of improvements for women as a whole. And for me, I think that socially, that is amazing.
Okay, great, yeah. And then I had my fifth question, the last one. So in 3 words, what would your advice be for Asian guys who want to date other races?
Date black women.
Thank you, Ranier.
No problem.
I'm going to go find some black women right now.
You should. What are you waiting for?
I'm going to put my name on your site and I'm going to be like, find Elliot in LA.
Hey,
okay.
I don't mean to make this promotion, but I'm actually working with a lot of my blog readers right now because since I have this huge fan base, I'm actually working to create almost like this traditional matchmaking system where I'm having a lot of single Asian guys and I'm encouraging them to message me, and since I have a lot of people who are interested in Asian guys, and for a lot of Asian guys it's hard to go out in the dating world because it's almost like as an Asian guy when you're dating, you have to find out if they're smart, if they're nice, if they're educated, but also if they're into Asian guys. Like that's a completely different category and a particular qualification because sometimes you'll find someone who's fantastic for yourself, but they just aren't into Asian guys. And so I'm actually trying to make either a website or a service where Asian guys who are interested in interracial dating, they can go to me. I'll set them up. I'll try to match them up with people who I've been working with. So hopefully that works out.
So how far have you gotten on this?
I actually just started conceptualizing it 2 days ago. Well, technically, I've been thinking about this for years. But I'd never really had sort of feedback from everybody. And on my blog's Facebook page, there's a lot of activity, and so I threw out the question. I was like, hey, what do you guys think? Should I do this? And people came in the hundreds just saying like, yeah, do it. Like, oh, this would be awesome. Like, I would totally use the service. So if you know single Asian guys, bring them to me.
I will do that. Do you have a name for the service yet? It's gonna be some awesome catchy name, right?
I don't know.
Some
It's
Rex,
probably
Dragon.
the only problem about Asian-related websites is that a lot of them like work on some really corny pun, like
Yeah.
or
We
some
don't
pun
have,
on.
we went through all like the permutations of banana, yellow.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I'll think of something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I was actually thinking of starting a dating site too, but kind of the opposite of your idea, meaning
Yeah.
I lived in China for some time, and like there were all these women that were like Chinese that wanted to date. Like they're like, "Oh, introduce me to some of your American Chinese friends," and I'd be like, "I have so many friends that are still single. They're great guys, but like you said, the dating world just sucks here." I was like, wait, there's this great need on both sides of the ocean. All these single guys in America with, and then all these single girls over there who want to date slightly westernized American men. So I was actually thinking of starting kind of like international service to match them up. So it's interesting that you mentioned about your own idea, because I think you're right. I think there's also that's a great niche. I mean, I'm surprised there isn't one already. I mean, there's like farmers and all this weird shit, but
I think that your idea, you would make a lot of money. You would make a lot of money. Just go to that. You just go to that website, creepywhiteguys.com, and then you'll find all the clients that you need.
Creepy white guys?
Yeah, have you heard of that website?
No.
Or it's either creepy white guys or shit white guys say or whatever. But it's basically like it's like a Tumblr where women post all the really racist, sexist shit that white guys would say. Like they'd be like, "Oh, why are you dating an? I see you're with an Asian guy in your profile picture. Why are you dating him? You need to date a white guy. I'm big and strong." Like they'd say like this horrible shit. Check it out.
Yeah, like I don't. Well, my site wouldn't allow any white guys to be on it. They'd be excluded. So,
wait, hold on.
I want to introduce like Asian Americans to like males.
Sorry.
So matching guys who are born over here like us to maybe women who are single and want to date. There's a great need of that as well. No white guys. They're
okay. The whole time I thought you were talking about white guys. I was like,
I don't care how much you make.
That's interesting. No, okay, that idea, better, much better.
As long as I got Ranier stamp of approval, it's gonna be.
There you go.